Our guest in this segment is Gary Wine, County Administrator. Second time in a week Gary's been on. He's going to own the place pretty soon. Gary, good morning.
Good morning, Rob. I've got the president with me, too. I don't like going over without him. He's a safety net.
You've got Donald Trump with you? Wow.
Well, the more important president, Eddie Gochenour.
Oh, Eddie Gochenour. Yes, for purposes of local politics, that will suffice, sir. Very nice. You guys are in Charleston doing what this week, Gary?
Well, this is the last week we were here with the County Commissioners Association, and this week we're here supporting the West Virginia Association of Counties. So the county clerk, circuit clerk, assessor, sheriff, and the county commissioner are all down here.
What is the difference between the two associations?
Well, instead of being surrounded by all county commissions, now we have to pretend we care what. No, I'm kidding. But the needs of all the elected officials of the county.
Eddie, by the way, good morning to you. Are you also on a contributing mouthpiece there?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Well, great to have you with us, Eddie, as well. What are your goals in Charleston this week with this association?
Well, I mean, really, as Gary said, support our local electeds, but also to learn what's going on across the rest of the state of West Virginia, what concerns they have, what bills they may have moving in the legislature that we as commissioners, may not be paying a lot of attention to because it involves the clerk or, another part of our judicial system.
You folks have, I presume, both of these organizations, the one last week and the one this week, both do some advocating on behalf of the counties in West Virginia. And you also have your own specific lobbyists through Access Strategies that you employ. Do many of the other counties also employ a separate lobbyist to advocate for themselves as an individual county, Eddie or Gary, that you know of?
I know that Wood County does. I'm not sure about...
I think many's probably an unfair term, Rob. I would say several. There are those around the state, particularly those addressing needs that are impacting them just hard, right? So when you bring a group of 55 together that try and collectively attack 55 different issues, and Berkeley County, as you know, being one of the very few growth counties in the state, your county commission, my county commission, decided that they needed extra help focusing on the thing that meant most to them, and that was funding to help support survive the demands on all of the offices of the county, and that's, I think, how they landed on, now 6 years ago with saying, hey, we need help with a lobbyist to focus on exactly what we need. But I got to tell you, the County Commissioners Association, two of their priorities are two of the top priorities of the county commission. So the county commission and their lobbyists have really brought everybody together to focus on the rollback, and we call it a safety tax. Some are calling it an amusement tax, but they're uniting. They really are.
What is the rollback?
That's the issue where county governments in West Virginia, their gross net from property taxes can grow no greater than 101% of the prior year.
Okay, I got you now. So when Berkeley County was discussing hiring its own lobbying firm, one of the counters to it from an elected official that we interviewed at the time was that it could create resentment among some of the other counties that don't have their own specific lobbying firm. Do you hear any reaction in regards to that being true from any counties? Is there any resentment?
Well, I will tell you this, sir. This county commission and myself are as involved down here that I believe Berkeley County has ever been, and the word resentment is the polar opposite of what you hear. We have actually shared ideas and shared resources surrounding the opportunities that Access Strategies, and more importantly, the person assigned to our efforts, Summer Barrett, they have brought us leaps and bounds from where we were 6 years ago, and I think many people have opportunities to win with that. So, no, sir, I would say it's the exact opposite, Rob.
Is there a duplication of effort involved in the County Commissioners Association, the Association of Counties, and the lobbying firm in regards to the things that are most important to Berkeley County legislation-wise?
Well, I can tell you no. While I believe that the County Commissioners Association have been guided and brought along with what Berkeley County has done, The Association of Counties, the two priorities we discussed earlier, I don't even think those are on their supporting radar. So while they all have their own efforts, I believe that the unification with the County Commissioners Association and Berkeley County are really close. And I'm not saying what the Association of Counties is doing is wrong. It's just not aligned with what really is, what our growth county is seeing and needing.
I'm going to go to another field, and then John and Bill will kind of bounce in and out of the things we've discussed, plus their own questions separate from that. You did a budget workshop on Thursday at the county commission meeting. We could actually watch it along with you folks while you were working on it. Gary, any further changes to the budget that we should be aware of from what you discussed last week?
No, I'll let the president highlight some points, but I'll tell you this, Rob, it's strong. It's not as strong as they need it, but we're blessed to be in a growth county. I think we're projecting about $3.6 million more revenue than last year, and all of that is contingent upon the assessor delivering the certified values today. So today's a monumental day. That was a workshop last week. Nothing's carved in stone, but as of right now, I believe the commission feels good. I feel good, and while they couldn't fund everything that was asked, I think they're making strides. And
did you remain under $54 million?
As it sets today, they're going to land just right at 54.1, real close.
All right, Bill.
Yeah. Good morning, Gary. Two things, Gary. One, I want to recognize the fact that the commissioners spent so much time in Charleston. I remember the day when one commissioner was down there for during session. We're lucky, not like you folks are doing now. So I think that's very good for the county. Two things. One, you mentioned that the County Commission Association, the message was a rollback in the safety tax. You also mentioned for the Association of Counties, which included all the elected officials, those two things were not on their radar. What were you pushing for the Association of Counties?
Well, it actually, keynotes going on right now, Bill, and they haven't disclosed. I'm sure that's what will happen this morning to see the topics that they're really focused on. I don't have them. Eddie, do you know by chance up front what they're working on? Sorry, Bill, we don't know right this second, even though the term's been now going for several weeks. And they're working on stuff, but I don't know their topics off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Will they get in the way, though, of your rollback and your safety tax, even though you mentioned they're not top of the list? Will they get in the way and push back on those two?
Mr. Stubblefield, I don't believe so. Okay. They a lot of those different folks, they understand those issues and seem to be very supportive. And truthfully, both of those organizations, the CCA and the WVCO, I think, are working better now than I've seen in my 5 years.
They used to not work together at all. So,
yeah, well, they've had a change in leadership and a lot of changes in their executive directors and stuff. Our own Steve Catlett is one of the directors with the County Commission Association, and Steve is doing a great job. So, yeah, I think we're working better now than ever.
Good morning. What kind of reception are you getting on the tax referendum idea?
John, last week we were up here and we had a reception in the evening, and Steve and I were kind of working the room, and it was very, very positive. There were a lot more senators here, I think, than what there were delegates. But nearly every senator that we spoke with, and we spoke with a large number of senators, and I think we'll get strong support out of the Senate. I think we still have some work to do in the House.
And in talking with your fellow commissioners from across the state, issues like locality pay, Eastern Panhandle issues, are they landing with more warmth than they have in the past?
I would say so. I mean, every county in this state has basically the same issues. It's just larger counties, their problems are a little bit larger. And smaller counties, because they don't have the 68 deputies, they don't have the 34 firemen, but they wish they did. They wish that they could get, they don't need them, at that point today, I guess maybe that's not the right answer, but they do need more than what they have, and that's a challenge for them in their budgets.
I can tell you this, John, the underlying theme to everyone that's spoken, even to I had a gentleman last night, Secretary Pack, and everyone talks about more rule locally, more control locally, less control, less coming from Charleston. So it's a vibe down here, and it's really awesome to watch the Berkeley County Commissioners and Mr. Boyd, Mr. Hardy, everybody's down here working these rooms. You heard Eddie say, they worked the room at the legislative reception last week. There's another legislative reception tonight, and they do divide and conquer. And I got to tell you, I personally believe, and I've been in this great state for almost 57 years, and to really see Berkeley County connected and having conversations with Boone and McDowell and Mason in Ohio and having conversation and, hey, Eddie, how are you? I think it's worth its weight in gold.
Now, the big headline of a few weeks ago was the $400 million deficit that the state is facing that will climb to $600 million. The repair of that problem, how is that going to have an effect on Berkeley County? Are we going to feel direct pain from what you can tell?
Well, John, quite honestly, the only one that I've heard say that we have a $400 million deficit is the governor. Everybody else says we're strong. And I mean, we just heard the treasurer last night, Larry Pack, say we're strong. We're continuing to grow. So the only one that I personally have heard has been the governor, and that's been it.
Well, that's pretty strong voice.
Yeah, but I thought Eric Tarr said the same thing. Yeah. So
our guests.
Well, perhaps, but I didn't hear Eric, so I can't say so.
Yeah.
Via telephone, Berkeley County Commission President Eddie Gochenour, County Administrator Gary Wine. So in regards to jail costs, Eddie, you made mention of the fact that this potentially could be an astronomical situation depending on what federal grants are discontinued in the very near future. Are you bringing those concerns to anybody's attention right now? And is there any momentum toward having the state handle the jail costs sometime in the future instead of peddling those off on the counties?
I absolutely feel that that's a state responsibility, not ours, and I've expressed that loud and clear to anybody that will listen, including the former Secretary of Corrections. And also this past July, I testified with a joint subcommittee on jail costs. So, but no, it is a great concern for us, especially with the opportunity or the talk about losing some grant funds. Our day report center is what's saving us. If not, we would be near a $10 million jail bill. And unfortunately, our jail bill this past year has raised nearly $1 million. So, it's going the wrong direction again. We had it leveled out for a while, and even 2 years ago, it took a drop, but it's trending back up, and I think it's trending too quickly. We've even had discussions about when the state will pick up the bail or pick up the jail costs instead of at conviction. Try to get it when they have an extension in the case where all parties agree to extend the time of the case. Do it then, because once again, the people that have to pay the bill have no say in what's going on.
Eddie, we have problems with the jail bill, yet we've taken a lot of aggressive action trying to reduce it. Other counties have not. How are they surviving with the astronomical jail bill?
Well, I mean, it has to be eating them alive. There's no doubt about it. But the other part to that, Mr. Stubblefield, is their population is declining, and ours is continually increasing. So even though we're getting some wonderful people that move in here, not all of them are law-abiding citizens. So I think that probably helps offset some of their challenges.
Have we started receiving money from West Virginia first, and does any of that go into the jail cost?
No, sir. You have, yes, sir. And you've seen your first grant from the First Foundation to the tune of about $600,000. That grant was applied for 3 salaries at the Day Report Center. Some went to the Sheriff's Department, some went to the State Police, and some went to Martinsburg Police Department. However, Berkeley County is in receipt of about $4.4 million from the settlement of the opioid settlement, Mr. Stubblefield, and the County Commission has applied that money to service the $10 million debt for the modification in addition to the Day Report Center.
Okay. So how about the buzz about general cuts from the federal government in a state that is so dependent upon federal spending? Is there any talk about that? Or is there any emergency planning?
Well, it will, yes. So the Berkeley County Commission, John, has identified where it would hurt them the most, and that would be, in fact, with the federal funding that they have for employees that support the opioid epidemic. So, the mindset to support them and to rehabilitate them instead of incarcerate, we have absolutely identified that is a $7 million number. So if that money dries up and the county commission cannot come up with the funds to cover those services, we absolutely have to brace for a $7 million increase in an already $3 million regional jail bill.
Is that money that you'd have to come up with in a matter of months, or is that spread out over years, or all condensed into 1 year?
Well, if the efforts at hand at the federal level and the trends that you see now, if that's the prediction, then it would be immediate. I mean, if something were to be cut at the federal level that impacted the monies that support these folks locally, it could be overnight, Rob. You see reduction in force and layoffs and cuts to these organizations and that. I mean, I don't know, but I got to tell you, our eyes are on it, and the only option would be to reduce force elsewhere to come up with funds to cover those, or to pay a $10 million regional jail bill that we probably could dip into savings and support for 2 years, and then we don't know what we would do.
So if you lost grant funding that covers some of the items for the Day Report Center, are there ways to make up the salaries of those positions on your own, or is that really the bulk of the $7 million you're talking about, Gary?
Yeah, so the salaries and things of the Day Report Center, we get about $3.4 million to cover. If we were to lose that 3.4, the incarceration cost for those people would be $7 million.
So the number really you need is $3.4 million, and that would be to continue funding those salaries, correct?
That is correct.
That
is correct. And
that,
ahead, I'm sorry.
And I was going to say, and out of a $54 million budget, that's going to be about 6% of it. Is there 6% in that budget where you can make room for that $3.4 million?
Oh, no, it doesn't exist. It could be addressed with an increase in the levy rate. It could be addressed with the county commission not funding other sources to find the money. So it wouldn't be easy. People would feel it.
And we've been in the process of trying to transition that agency away from grants. We know that sooner or later they're going to dry up or go away or whatever. We understand that. But we're in a position now where they're able to charge Medicaid. They're doing state and federal drug testing now that they didn't do before. We now have a DUI program that people can get into. So all those programs generate some revenue, and that will help us in time offset some of those costs.
Going back to a question that either Rob or John asked earlier, how much attention are you receiving from the legislators on the potential funding cut from the federal government, including Medicaid and a lot of the grants? Berkeley County is fairly well positioned, even though you've highlighted several areas that's going to be cut. But compared to much of the state, you are very well positioned. What's going to happen to the rest of the counties, the bulk of the other counties, and how much attention are the legislators given to this potential disastrous financial situation we may be in?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Mr. Stubblefield, that that they or even we have a total grasp of that tremendous impact. I mean, this will be a huge impact on our state, especially in the more poorer counties. So I'm not sure anybody truly understands the importance of having these restored or not taken away.
Yeah, I not being within Charleston, I'm sure our legislators say they've talked about it a great deal, and hopefully they have. Just many of us not privy to what their thinking would be, but hopefully they are talking about it, because I think it's the ball is rolling. It's rolling downhill. Just how fast and how big the ball is remains to be seen.
It's really quite a pickle. The federal deficit for the 2025 the CBO projections of $1.9 trillion. So where do you cut that? And the money really is tied up in four major things, as we've discussed before: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the interest on the debt, and the Department of Defense. Those are I think about 77% of that 1.9 trillion is tied up in those four items. So that leaves about 17 to 20% discretionary spending, and then everyone says waste, fraud, and abuse, which is always kind of interpretive. So where do you get that money?
Well, I think fraud is fairly well defined. Abuse maybe. It's a waste that's subject to interpretation, and that has a wide definition.
We can start with the F-35.
That's the point I was getting ready to make. One of the suggestions is that we wean ourselves away from traditional weapons of war, the large aircraft, and go to drones. That's going to be the way of the future, a lot less expensive, so that would be something. But I don't
want to get Eddie and Gary into the Department of Defense discussion.
Right. You're exactly
Real
right.
quick, do we know what percentage of the workforce in Berkeley County is reports to the federal government?
Oh, we don't. I don't. No,
Okay.
We can't, John. We don't know.
Eddie and Gary, appreciate you guys taking some time out to get in touch with us today. As always, very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
You get the final word. If there's something else you needed to get across, now's the time to do it, Eddie or Gary.
I would just offer, Rob, that right around 60% of the county commission's budget is applied to public safety. They've spent the last 10 years trying to keep the levy rate exactly where it is and live within their means, and I can assure you that abuse and wrongful spending is monitored, and we run as tight as we can.
Appreciate it. And do you have another budget workshop coming up, Gary?
We meet with the elected officials on Thursday to discuss the allocations and hopefully adopt it next Thursday.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.